Hi, and welcome to the Flex with Aaliyah. Today, joining me, I have my friend and co-contestant from Beast Games, Micah, joining me. Thank you, Micah, for tuning in.
What's up, everybody? Hi, Leah.
And today, we are going to talk about what happened in the city, things that took place in episode 2, which were the 4-floor challenges. Okay, and obviously I wasn't there, boo-hoo, but Micah was there, so she got to experience living in the city for a bit and what happened during these challenges. So she's going to tell us all the details, how it started, was it stressful, was it not stressful, the ins and outs of it. Okay, Micah, give us the dish. What happened? You got to the city, boom, then what?
All right, so we got to the city after filming episode one all night. So I don't know what time you finally made it to bed, and I have no idea what time I finally made it to bed because we still didn't have any clocks to know anything, but the sun was up. They gave us clean underwear, pajamas. Those, if you see in the on the show when we're wearing black, like a black shirt or black pants, those were the pajamas that they gave us. And then we had a new fresh uniform for the next day. So that was pretty neat. And we kind of just explored for a little bit. It was really neat seeing the city. And we picked our own little like bunk dorm halls and bunk beds. And at this point, I was feeling kind of lonely. I was a little sad because all the connections that I had made, or most of them at that point, were eliminated in Vegas or in episode one. So I was kind of just by myself. So I picked a random bunk and I ended up next to some really sweet people. So I hit the jackpot there. And then I think we ate at some point and we went to bed and it was hot during the day. So the first sleep that we had was in the middle of the day and it was so hot in those dorm halls. There was no air conditioning, no heater. Actually, wait, I think there was something, but it didn't work well. And so I slept, I don't know how long, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 5 hours. I really don't know. It was still sunlight when I woke up, and we had food again. And they didn't really announce when the meals were served, but we just kind of figured it out because everyone started congregating around the cafe wall of food. And so you just kind of get your tray. They gave us options of what to eat, and they had muscle milk around the clock, and Feastables, and coffee, and some sodas, and water. So that was nice. And then you just kind of, the first day, if I remember right, we didn't do anything. Just kind of enjoyed the city, lounged around. I played some basketball. There were hammocks. The show didn't really show all that the city had to offer, which I kind of wish it would have because it was really neat. A ping pong table, a soccer field, bags, chess, just so many things to do to fill your time. A little weights area to work out, yoga mats, bicycles, kites. I mean, it felt like, I don't know if you've seen the show The Good Place, but it reminded me of The Good Place. It was like this utopian society where everything's free, everyone is relaxed. There's no one goes to work. No one has anything to do except lounge, leisure activities. So then the next day is when we did our first challenge. So they congregated us all up, like you saw in the show, and they had us draw a token out of a bag. And each token had a clue on the back. And so, floor four, if you got a four on it, the clue was, I hope you can catch. Number three, the clue was, get ready to throw down. Number two was, less is more. And number one was, use your brain. So you could trade tokens with anyone if you wanted to. The problem is you didn't know if you were going to be competing with your team or against your team. So some people wanted opposite tokens as their friends. Some people wanted the same tokens as their friends because we had no clue if this would be like a group elimination or half the team or how it was going to work. We just knew to get some tokens. So I'm a decently athletic person, so I traded to get hope you can catch because typically I can catch. And They divided us up, and that took a while to get the numbers even. I don't know what ended up happening, if there was an extra person or we were missing a person, but the numbers were off by one. So we had to keep recounting the teams and recounting the teams, and eventually they figured it out. And so floor four went first, which was my floor. We climbed all the way to the top floor, and then they explained the rules where the ball would be dropping from the ceiling, and you have to catch it essentially. And whichever team drops one first is out. The whole team is out. And there are about 64 or so people per team.
How did they decide who was on what team? So you got a token, but how they decide who was on Tower 1 and Tower 2?
So the tokens had the four either had a star or no star. So I was team for no star, I think. I really don't remember which side I was on. So yeah, all the fours were, I'm pretty sure they were yellow tokens. And if you had a star on it, you were on one side. If you didn't, you're on the other. So there was about 120, 130 people that had a four. But yeah, half had stars, half didn't. So that's how that was divided. So then they explained the rules, and everyone was real nervous. I mean, we had the team captains give pep talks, but it was a lot more friendly and a lot more like welcome at this point. And we just kind of threw around different ideas. It was a lot easier to work with a team of 60 people than in Vegas, what our teams were, was it, 400 when we had team captains trying to talk. So we kind of went with a plan where one person we would work in partners. One person who was comfortable catching would be the one prepared to catch, and next to them would be their partner who was going to hold the balls. Because we didn't know how many balls this was going to take. We were anticipating like everyone will be catching five, however many. So we thought eventually we need to make a plan for what we're going to do if we run out of people to hold the ball and so on. And then, so then we started the game and we caught a few balls. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see someone on our team drop the ball. And they still had us catch a couple more, just, I guess, in case. I don't know why. And then our floor lit up red, which meant we're out. So then we sat there for hours and people were just devastated. And I mean, there were so many people just ugly crying, so upset. I sat there next to Tiffany. I don't know if anyone who's listening saw the clip. It was not on the show, but it's on the internet now of the girl who got engaged in episode one, Tiffany. So she became my buddy. I ended up being her bunkmate. And so I sat next to her on floor four when we sat there for hours thinking we were out, shivering cold. I mean, it was in the middle of the night when we were filming this, and we were up on a tower with no walls, and it was cold. And so we just sat there talking about it's okay, it's okay. And she's like, that guy over there, he's the one who dropped it, and I feel bad for him. No one's talking to him. She's like, I'm too mad to talk to him, but I still feel bad for him. So I'm like, I'll go talk to him. I'm not mad. So I went over and talked to him, and he was okay. I mean, he was, disappointed like we all were, but it was okay. And then Jimmy called us all over to look at the screen, and he's like, all right, we're going to do replays. Here is Team Yellow, which was us. And he's like, here's the ball that they dropped. And it showed Hector, the guy on our team who dropped it. And poor Hector, they put it on the screen for everyone to see. So, side note, the two teams that are on the floors were the, ones in the game. Everyone else is on the bleachers watching down on the main floor. But he called them around so they could see the big screen also. So all 500 of us are watching this big screen, and they all watched Hector drop the ball. And then, and we had no idea this was happening. Then Jimmy said, and here's when the other team dropped the ball. And that was the first glimmer of hope that I felt. And it showed the other team drop the ball, and we had no idea that they dropped it. And then Jimmy said, all right, Team Yellow, that was their fourth ball, which was my team. He said, Team White, that was their first ball that they dropped. And we went crazy. The celebration was unreal. I mean, I thought we were going to break the tower or fall through the floor. I mean, you have big men jumping and chest bumping and lifting each other up, and everyone was jumping. It was a celebration that I've never experienced before. It was so cool. I mean we were sitting there tortured, for hours just waiting for them to send us home. And so that was really cool. But then you look over at the other team and you see how sad they are. And so that was sad too, because you have friends or I had friends on the other team. So then it's like, oh no, they're getting out now. But at least it's not me.
Yeah, that had been so stressful because you guys thought you were out and then you weren't.
Yes, our floor was red, the lights were red. And I remember sitting there just looking over the edge, like into the, I don't know, fields of Toronto.
Having to wait there that long in anticipation with the belief that you were out. Oh my goodness. And if you haven't watched that episode, you can see the other team being excited, and then they have a player who's like, oh man, I dropped it. And they're like, shh, shh, don't say anything. And on the video clip that they showed in the episode, you see that your team lost and they show the other team excited, and then someone saying, oh man, I dropped the ball, and all of his teammates are like, shh, shh, don't say anything, you got to believe that you caught it. And he's like, no, they're gonna see, there were cameras, you're going to see. And they're like, no, no, no. And lo and behold, that is what happened, because you see in the clip he caught it, but from another angle, it actually bounced from the ground up, and then he caught it off the bounce on the floor, which is crazy. Oh my gosh. Woo!
Yes. And we had some people on our side were like, they look stressed out. They look stressed over there. And my mindset was, no, I mean, we're out. We just need to accept it. And there's a girl, Daphne, I don't remember her number, but she makes it pretty far in the series. And she was on my team and she kept saying, it's not over till it's over. It's not over till it's over. And in my head, I'm like, okay, but it's over. But yeah, I was wrong. And then I hit the jackpot being on that team for sure. Because that took so long, we didn't film any other games that night. We went to bed after that. Well, we ate at, I don't know, 4 a.m. or whatever time it was, and then we went to bed. And the next day is when we filmed the other three games. And so I had the entire day to relax. I didn't have to do any more competing. I knew I'd be fine. I really got the right team for sure for that game. And then, so the next day they did floor two, the less is more.
For those of you who haven't seen the episode, the less is more game was you had these two teams on their respective towers, and they actually put a curtain up, and whichever team had less people at the end of the challenge would move on. You had to choose to voluntarily leave so that way everybody else could go. You could not have anybody leave. You could have one person leave.
Yeah, or convince someone else that they want to leave. And that got ugly. That really beat some people up mentally. So, yeah, and you sacrifice to save your team. And whichever side sacrifices more, that team stays and the other one gets out. So there's a chance you would sacrifice yourself to save your team and your team would still get out.
But then you didn't know what the other side was doing because there was a curtain. There was also a phone that you could call the other tower, which they didn't really use. And they talked about kind of like playing a mind game, like, oh, well, we're not sending anybody, or we're sending 5 people so that way other people would send less or more. And I don't know how accurate it is, but on the show, the episode that we see, it's like coming right down to the wire where people are actually stepping out. And that last moment decision is what swayed the game. I don't know if that's actually what happened, because sometimes these things happen at different times in real time than what it is shown.
And so during floor two, when they filmed, they made us all stay in our dorm rooms and they didn't tell us what was going on. So we had no clue. They were quiet. We just knew we had to stay in our dorm rooms. So we just kind of hung out in our dorm rooms, and we were allowed to use the bathroom, but we had to keep our head down. And even from where the dorms were to where the bathrooms were, we were walking away from the tower. and it was a distorted view anyway. We couldn't see the tower anyway from that angle. So I went to the bathroom a couple times to try to see if I could hear anything, and I couldn't hear anything. And that really freaked me out. But after the game was over, we realized why we couldn't hear anything because it was such a quiet game. And that game really beat some people up. I That was one of the hardest games I think on people, and it didn't really show it. It didn't give it justice on the episode. There were a couple people on there that just, I mean, they just couldn't wrap their heads around what just happened. And I think it got kind of ugly for some people. And some people really were mean to others. Like they were trying to find like the weak links and just attacking them, trying to get them to self-sacrifice. That one looked brutal. Then they did floor one, which was the trivia, and they kept us in our dorms during that also. And they didn't tell us why. They didn't tell us what was going on. They just said everyone has to stay in your dorms. You can't, if you have to go to the bathroom, keep your heads down, don't look at the tower, whatever. And we tried listening. So, like, these dorm buildings aren't insulated at all. And the back had like a big sliding door that you could open. And so it wasn't like sealed. And so we would like stick our ears up to that to try to figure out, and we could kind of hear some of the questions, but we weren't like connecting the dots. We just were not anticipating it to be trivia, like that simple trivia. And I heard, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I heard that that wasn't the game they originally planned on playing because the floor had all those designs on it, all those like symbols. And when we were on the fourth floor, we could see the first floor, the symbols on it. And so as soon as we got off the floor, we found everyone on floor who had the token for floor one. And we're like, hey, here's what we saw. I saw two crosses and a dot. I saw another one that had this. And then so I don't know. I mean, I heard that because of that, they scrapped the game and switched to trivia, but that could be wrong because everything's hearsay. I don't really know much else. There wasn't really much else to talk about, or that was talked about on the trivia game. That was pretty cut and dry. And then floor three, the get ready to throw down, that one was really fun to watch.
For this one, this challenge, ready to throw down, they stood on a particular floor and they were each given, I don't know if it was a basketball, but it was a ball. Each team member was given one ball and they had to throw it into this solo cup. So it was this massive, larger than life solo cup that they had planted however many feet in front of the tower. So whoever was up would walk up and they'd throw their ball. And they would alternate between the teams. So yellow team and then non-yellow team. Whoever had the most balls in the solo cup, by the end, that's who would stay and get eliminated. And then at some point, they put a gold cup out where if you got it in that, you would win a shit ton of money. I don't remember how much it was. And most of the people didn't go for it, but a couple did or said they didn't. They just overshot the other one.
Oh, this ball. I tried throwing this ball. This ball is way heavier than you think it is. Like in terms of trying to toss it. Like just a gentle toss. It wasn't light enough for that. It was like the size of a beach ball, but thick like a kickball, but maybe a little thicker. And so it made it heavier.
And I saw some people were trying to like deflate the ball by squishing it. Some people tried to bounce it.
I had the best view. I sat on the grass, kind of in between the towers. So like right in front of me was the giant cup. So we could just see, and then they had a drone over the top of it and screens for us so we could see if it went in or not. Because it was hard to see it, even though I'm right next to it looking at it, it was hard to tell if it was like lined up or not, and you couldn't see what was going on above. So they had screens for us, all the people on the bleachers and the grass watching.
And it's interesting that you guys got to watch that compared to the less is more and the trivia one. Maybe they didn't want people calling things out or making noise, so that way the contestants who were playing couldn't pick up clues or hints from what was going on, maybe? You said it was fun watching it. Was it stressful too, or no?
My favorite part of the day was not having to compete.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm not sure which one I would have wanted to be in. I probably would have picked like the catch one. And it was interesting to see how people work together or against each other in that one, because that was kind of like a team one where you need to work together. But the less is more, it was more a social psychological game where you were kind of working against people to a degree. Then you had the trivia, totally individual, even though you had those little groups. So for the trivia one, they had groups of, I think, 5 to 6 people from each team, maybe 4, come out. They were given a question and they wrote an answer down. So in theory, both teams could get the answer right, but usually one got one right and the other team got it wrong. There's only like maybe a small handful of questions where they both got right, which was surprising because the questions weren't that hard. So if you haven't seen episode 2, you should check it out. These are the challenges. We probably gave you a little spoiler alert, but not too much. On another episode, we're going to have Micah back, and she's going to talk about some of the challenges from episode 3, which will be exciting to hear. So make sure you like, subscribe, share. Thank you for tuning in.